Hello and welcome back to Buckle Up. I'm Harry King and this is a bright orange MG4, which is the electric car of the moment. But is it any good? So we'll start as usual here at the front, which I think looks rather good. It's different to all of the other MGs on sale in the UK at least. There is a Marvel R SUV that kind of shares this face, and of course the new Cyberster continues this styling trend for MG, but this was kind of the first one out with this kind of pointy, sporty shark nose thing going on, lights pointing right down into the centre, and a great big MG badge. They're quite proud of that now. Very, very sleek, as you can see from the angle of the windscreen and the general sportiness of the roof line. On this trophy model, you've got a black contrast roof to go with your black contrast side sculpting here to make it look a bit more svelte, and you've got these 17-inch wheels with kind of aero wheel covers. Also in the contrast black, you get folding wing mirrors, which insist on folding back in on me constantly because they go every time you unlock the car, but then it locks itself and they go back in. So if you're wondering about the continuity, that's why that is. And then you've got this cool rear tail light, which there's actually more to than there seems. So obviously you've got this big light bar, but on top there's also individual strands of light, let's call them, that's illuminating red. It looks really rather good at night time. You also get, on the trophy model, this cool double spoiler styling thing here. I think the back of the car looks a little bit empty or pinched in almost without these, but otherwise you get a sort of diffusory area and the boot. So let's actually have a look in the boot. I'll open it up and you'll be presented with 363 litres of space, which is 22 less than the ID3, or about on par with the Golf if you want a ICE competitor. There is a false floor, although unfortunately the charging cable bag doesn't quite fit underneath it. It's just left dangling, which is a bit irritating. You don't have a space saver spare wheel down there. You've got little pockets in the side. Now, if you fold the seats down, space goes up to 1,177 litres. And you do get a continuous low floor. However, MG have not bothered putting in any runners for the seat belts, so you just have to watch that you don't trap them when you bring the seats back up again. There aren't really any other features in the boot, so while we're talking about seat belts, let's go see what it's like in the back row. Now, it is actually, for me, a little bit cramped back here. I don't know if you can see, but this seat is in my driver's position and my knees are all the way wedged into it, which is not ideal. I also only just have enough headroom, so people over 6 feet tall might not do so well back here. I'm 180 centimetres or 5'11", whichever takes your fancy. You do get some little pockets up here to, I guess, stick your phone into. They're segmented in the middle, so you won't be able to fit a tablet in, which would be quite good if you could put a tablet in there and watch it, but never mind. And you do get a bigger pocket as well, but there's no centre armrest, and the centre console just has a singular USB power port and then a little pocket in it. You do get rear door pockets. They're slightly bigger than average, but you wouldn't fit much more than a bottle in them. You do get ISOFIX, and it's on Velcro, or the covers are on Velcro, and they don't come off completely, so you won't lose them, but it also means everything's nice and covered up and neat and tidy when you're not using ISOFIX. What I must say is the materials in here are really rather nice. This isn't just a bargain basement alternative to an ID3. They put in effort. There's blue stitching. I mean, even the padding on the backs of these pockets just gives that extra little bit of perceived quality that helps elevate a car into feeling premium. But have they succeeded in making it premium up front? You do still get those little touches that help elevate the interior. Again, soft touch down on the armrest, soft touch here, the nice blue stitching around the seat, and it's the same textured cloth with the vegan leather side bolsters. You've got a rather swish open center console design, so you've got this plinth up here that's lined up with the armrest, but then you get this that makes the front, contrary to the back, feel really big and airy. There's so much space in the front of this car. It's really nice, the feeling of space, actually. But there are some signs of where MG have made their savings in order to make this kind of the cheapest desirable electric hatchback, or car even, available. Number one is this thing here is a bit tappy plastic, which is a shame because it's kind of a focal point of the interior. So you miss out on like, it's a nice steering wheel, a nice armrest and all that stuff, nice headliner, and then you go, oh yeah, but this is a bit cheap. And also there's just no buttons. They've gone down the ID3 route, or the Tesla route, if you want to call it that, and they've taken a lot of the buttons out of the interior. Now that does save a lot of money for a manufacturer, because obviously every button is an individual part they have to make, and they all have to be designed, and this means there's, you know, nothing to flip left to right, all of that stuff, but it's just not practical. Storage, you get 2 cup holders down here. You also get bottle holders in the doors. You've got a large centre storage area here. I've currently got a charger in it, and it's got a retractable lid so you can hide everything away again. You also get a large centre storage bin where I think you could fit at least 10 Scotch eggs. You also get a nice little storage net here, which you could probably put your key in while you're driving. I do like that, so much to put the key. Up here you do have a Qi charging pad to charge your phone. And down under here you have your 12-volt socket and your USB and your USB-C, and the USB-C is how you connect the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You've also got a glove box. It is damped, and interestingly, instead of having a big bulky owner's manual, you have a little wallet like this, and then you can go into the settings on the screen, and your user manual is in the infotainment, which makes so much sense to have your user manual in the infotainment. You don't have this massive book that just lives in your car for no reason. An electric driver's seat, but manual for the passenger. And importantly, the best thing to have in a car, a sunglasses holder. Every car should have a sunglasses holder. The steering wheel itself is rather nice. It's got a flat bottom, and it's a 2-spoker, but with a kind of faux third bump for a spoke down here, so it almost tricks you into thinking it's a 3-spoke wheel. But the flat bottom means it's easy to get in and out of, you know, while also feeling sporty. But anyway, that's enough nattering on. Let's go and do the most important thing and take it for a drive. Okay, so driving the MG4. Let's start with some figures. So this is the long-range trophy, which means it has a 64 kilowatt-hour battery and a range of 270 miles, WLTP. That's 11 miles down on the standard long-range trim due to those funky little rear spoilers. They look good, but they really do hurt your range in the real world. There is also an entry-level model with around a 200-mile WLTP range and a 51 kilowatt-hour battery. And that's the real headline grabber. That's the one that's under £30,000. This one starts from around 32. And all cars get a 150 kilowatt motor, which translates to about 203 brake horsepower, and 250 newton meters of torque, which powers this particular one from 0 to 62 in 7.9 seconds, which is slightly down on the short range car because that's obviously lighter due to its smaller battery. So it's actually 0.2 of a second faster to 62. However, around 8 seconds isn't a bad 0 to 62 time. It feels pretty nippy in traffic and gets you up to speed perfectly well on the motorway. I am about to approach an A road, and I've got it in sports mode, and I've got traction control off, and we're going to see how lively it is. Well, there we go, foot down. And there is 60 pretty much. So that feels, yeah, quick enough. for a normal car, certainly. That instant torque you get with an electric car, as always, does make the car feel very urgent. It's a good acceleration. In sports mode, I've got slightly heavier steering. The turning's nice and sharp. There is quite a bit of body roll. Obviously, this is a relatively heavy car compared to its hatchback compatriots, certainly the ICE ones. Although for an electric car, it's relatively light, weirdly. But you can feel the heft of it in the corners. There's not the most steering feel in the world. You can discern that it's rear-wheel drive, but it's not what I would call a rewarding driving experience. You're more likely to get gradual understeer than any kind of tail-happy excitement. And yeah, with that roll, you feel the weight shifting around. It just doesn't necessarily encourage you to press on. That's not really what this car is about, even though MG probably like to pretend it is. However, this car isn't all about taking corners fast. For most people, it'll be about just driving around. So on that front, what's the road holding like, the suspension, the damping? Well, the damping is actually very good. The suspension itself can be a little bit crashy. You get the odd judder through the body, but it is well controlled. You feel stable on the road, and it does mask potholes and things around town very well. It's higher speed bumps, things like motorway bridge joints. You feel the suspension judder, but it's very manageable, very livable. Yes, you've got 4 settings for the regen. There's like a low, a medium, and a high, and then an adaptive one, where the car will predict how much regen you need at any given time. However, it's buried in the screen. You have to go in and press the car. Look, I pressed the phone by accident. No, car. There we go, and then it's in here. So it's called weak, medium, and strong, I should say. You've also got drive modes. We've been in sport so far, but let's go to normal. Or even eco, shall we? But you've got snow, eco, normal, sport, and custom, where you can combine the different settings to find your preferred one. You do also get a proper traction control button, unlike in a VW product, but it's again in a slightly different screen. Again, there's just a lot of touchscreen navigation occurring, and I think regen, I know you can stick it in adaptive and it will figure it out for you, but I really like the Hyundai Kia system where you can pull a paddle to change it on the fly. I think that's really handy. Because, for example, if I came off a motorway and was going onto an A road where I would be more on the brakes, so I, would want to turn the regen up and use that instead, it's a faff. Also this, I'm going to have to turn apologies if there's more noise, I'm going to have to turn the aircon up because the windows are steaming up. There. Oh God, it's all too faffy. And you do have shortcut buttons here where you could put the regen if that was important to you, or you could put the temperature, but there's only 2. There's not enough things. I want to be able to control more things with buttons than I would have the ability to, and it's not a perfect solution anyway. And while we're here, cruise control, what's that about? Okay, so you've got MG Pilot, which is very smart. It's radar cruise control. It's got lane keeping assist. But a single press of the button adjusts the cruise control by 5 miles an hour. And if you want to go by 1 mile an hour at a time, you have to press and hold. But then it's really hard to land on the exact number you want because you're pressing and holding a button. Just the other way around. Like every other car manufacturer in the world. Just do it the other way round. Why do you feel the need to make it 5 miles an hour on a single press? That's bonkers. Honestly. And then also, lane keep assist. Well, it's not like Tesla. it bounces you from line to line. I'll see. I'm going to head to the motorway now, and I'll see if I can demonstrate it. Obviously, if it's a bit busy, I'm not going to let the car just meander around by itself. But you've got so close with the technology, why not just put it that little bit further? And yes, I know this is cheaper than the rivals, but the rivals do all offer proper, like, self-steering systems rather than the slightly more outdated keep me within the white lines systems. And it means that it doesn't quite do the cozy little pod that commutes me to work thing as well as its rivals can. And, oh, dare I say it, yes, it's rear wheel drive, but I think you can have a more rewarding driving experience in a Kia Soul. Even though that's front wheel drive, I think it's actually just a bit more lively when you want it to be. And I know very few people are buying electric hatchbacks on that criteria, but at some point we're all going to have to get into electric cars. It's going to matter to people which one is most fun. And it seems like an obvious place that MG could kind of push themselves in the market. It's like, oh look, we're MG, we're a sporting... Oh no, stop listening, stop steering for me. Yeah, so also white line detection, or sorry, lane departure warning. It will tug the wheel for you back into your lane. And I think this is incredibly irritating, if you have the sat nav on and you don't go the way that it says you should go, it tugs the wheel for you and says, no, come on, I know where we're going, which is good if you're forgetful or you're not paying attention. But sometimes you don't want to listen to the sat-nav. Say the motorway's shut or there's a traffic jam, you think, oh, I know a way round. It gets cross with you. I'm the driver. Let me drive you. You're not in charge. Stop trying to pull the wheel out of my hands. I should say that the radar part of the radar cruise control works excellently. It will keep you behind someone, no fuss at all. It's very good about holding you at the speed you've set rather than, yo-yoing around that speed. All of that works very well. The car's very settled on the motorway. It works well at higher speeds. Obviously, you will lose some range over kind of 65 miles an hour. Your optimal range speed would be about 60 miles an hour. But with that 270 mile range, even when you're driving at motorway speeds, you can still do over 200 miles on a charge. I've been driving this mostly on A roads or motorways for the past week, and I'm getting a predicted range of 230 miles. It's also quite cold at the moment. I often have the climate control on to some extent. I think that's pretty good. It's certainly very good for the money. Visibility is pretty darn good. That rear window is a little bit short, and it doesn't have a rear wiper. I've got good sized rear mirrors though. The windscreen's fantastic, it's massive. And when you stick the indicator on, it gives you all kind of surround view on the screen. So you get a really good, it's like a double shot of visibility, plus you get cross collision alert and all of those smart systems. Look, if I turn the indicator on now, it should do it on stationary. There, see? So you've got a top view of the car and then a left-hand view as well, which is pretty darn good. Right, let's go onto the motorway, and I'm going to turn on the cruise control and try and show you what sort of thing it does when you don't input a lot of steering. So see, it lets me drift, and then it does that, yeah. But as you can see, I've got the radar on. That car's just pulled out in front of me. I don't know if you can see that on this camera. And I will now progress towards the back of that Fiat 500X in a stable and steady way. The only thing is, look, push that once, 55. Down, 50. And press and hold, 54. But it's just not exact enough. It's a weird choice to do it in multiples of 5. And I've searched and searched in the settings, and I will be honest, I might have missed it, but I can't find a way to stop it doing that, to make it work the way I want it to work. Because you can customize a lot of things. These shortcut buttons, that is a good idea, but I would like shortcut buttons in conjunction with some long cut buttons, some just normal things, like here for some aircon, or heated seats. Got heated seats and a heated steering wheel, and I have to go into the screen to access all of them. It's just not really ideal. The actual driver's cluster I quite like. It's got a little display on the left-hand side for all your MG Pilot stuff, and it does show you when it's detecting a car around you, so you can see the cars passing that are parked. Like, it can also see the car that's in front of me, and I like that because it shows me that all the systems are working and everything's operating properly. And it's a little bit like how Tesla do it, although not quite swish. In the middle, you've got your important driving information, your range, your battery percentage, the prevailing speed limit. It will read speed signs for you, and then obviously your current speed. And then you do, or you can get navigational information on the right-hand side, which again is good. That's nice to have that in the gauge cluster. You don't have to look away from the road to see where you're going. And the screens are big and clear. Now, around town, the car is excellent. You really feel the benefit of the instant torque from the electric motors. So I'll zip out at this roundabout, and we'll see. So that's really handy, just that, having that instant chunk of torque around town. And because the front wheels aren't doing anything other than steering, turning is great, and you get this nice tight turning circle that's really handy in a car park or on smaller streets. All of the cameras come into play. I think this car's really at home in town, which is good because that's probably where a lot of people will be using it. The more I drive around in sports mode, the more I think this is how the car should just be all the time. And not necessarily the throttle. The throttle doesn't need to be that urgent, but the steering is so much nicer in sports mode than it is in normal. If I just do it, look, oh, it just tucks in nicely. And there is a decent amount of grip on this chassis. So my plus points are, drives very well, very competent, very quiet, very comfortable. It's good at cruising on the motorway. Bad points, driving assist systems aren't quite as good as they could be, and the UX isn't quite as good as it could be, but it's not as bad as VW's. But without saying any more than that, let's go back and conclude. Okay, so the MG4. This is a tricky one for me. This is a good car. I want to start with that and be very clear. It's a good car. It's very comfortable. It's by far the best value in class. All things considered, it is not a fun car. It's fun compared to its main rival, the ID3. But I don't think it's as good to drive as a Kia Soul EV. And importantly, none of those cars are as good to drive as a well set up ICE vehicle at the moment. We just aren't quite there yet. So I feel like maybe this has been slightly oversold by some other people. But it is excellent. The cabin space is fantastic. This would be really great to live with on a daily basis. If you do motorway miles, if you're driving around town, it's easy to park. Great suspension. It's just the spoilers, the bright orange paint. It's not quite living up to the hype I saw with this car, but it's still very good, and it's better than the ID3. Regardless of price, it's better than the ID3. So I would encourage you, if you're looking for an electric runabout, go and check out the MG4. I think you'll like it. Just don't go in expecting it to be like a Fiesta ST. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. You'll find all the links to all our social media down in the description. You'll also find 3 ways to support the channel. We have a merch store. I'm wearing some of that right now. We also have a Patreon, or we have channel memberships where you can either join as a monthly subscription thing, or you can give thanks, where you give us a one-time payment, which feels weird. But it's a thing you can do. So there you go. And otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.